I'm Robin Wild, Executive Director for the Foundation for Hope in Africa. We welcome you to this video, which is going to tell you a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes when we're traveling throughout the continent. We have been traveling in 18 different groups over the past 10 years working on developmental projects. These folks behind me have been on some of these trips, and they're going to tell you some of the stories that are most memorable to them. We want to say thanks for all of your financial support and for all of the other support that you give us on a daily basis and how you've supported us through these 10 years. So we hope you're going to enjoy this video. Thanks again from the Foundation for Hope in Africa.
The countries in Africa that I have been to are Uganda,
Rwanda, Zambia,
Burundi, Tanzania,
Botswana,
Malawi,
Kenya, and Ethiopia. The trip that I remember is our trip to Burundi. Initially, we traveled to Burundi in 2009 to kind of scout out the area and start working with the Hope School. Our first trip was in 2010, where we started to build some school buildings that they were in desperate need for their primary and their secondary schools. In addition, we have completed a library there, multiple other buildings, a water catchment system, and there's a bunch of other projects that we've completed in Burundi, really to assist the students there, because the only way they have out of poverty is through education.
I was in Malawi in 2016. We did an eyeglass mission. We gave 800 pairs of glasses away, and we still had over 100 people away that we didn't have enough glasses for. And we also spent the day at the prison giving eyeglasses there also.
In 2010, I was in Tanzania. We worked on Kim Jones' house.
It's an orphanage for all the children, with the HIV parents and then just the underprivileged children of the area.
We bent iron, dug ditches, carried rock, had a good time, got sunburnt.
Also, as we were doing that, we had to dig all the footings, and we had to lay the quarried stone down in and lay them, and it was very hard dirt, extremely hard dirt, and a lot more pickaxing than shoveling, and became a beautiful building for the Kim Jones house.
The project I remember, on our very first trip in 2007, we were in Kampala, and we planted 100 trees in this swamp. They were planting the trees so that they could sell them later for income. It's memorable not because we were up to our knees in mud and we were falling all over the place, but a couple months after we returned, we were told that it was a swamp that was infested with cobras.
In 2007 was my first trip to Uganda, and we landed at night. It was dark, and there the lights go off, generators go off, because it is a very poor country. So it was very, very dark, and it was very scary, but the people that greeted us were just awesome.
I think another thing that I noticed was the food. The food is very different. We had a lot of rice and a lot of goat. We had some other things, and I remember anytime some of us didn't want to try any of the food, we gave it to Dick, because Dick would eat anything.
Well, I remember when we got there, and then all of a sudden we are here in this foreign, dark, gloomy place, waiting for a friendly face, which they were very friendly. They helped us get our luggage to our rooms, and excellent.
When I made the trip to Malawi, I learned how poor the people are more than I ever thought they were. They just had nothing, but yet were so happy, and their homes were so close together. Their streets were very narrow, and they cooked outside on a little piece of brick that they made into an oven and no refrigeration in their home, and they seemed to shop daily, for whatever they wanted to eat.
I was there for one of the eyeglasses clinic, and also kind of adding on to what Toddy said and just realizing how poor they really are. But when we were able to give some of the eyeglasses to them, just seeing how grateful they really were to receive those.
And bouncing off of that, just the true joy that somebody can have, even though they have absolutely nothing, it's not hard to be joyful and loving towards others.
I learned that they're very respectful. I worked putting up fence posts with a bunch of teenage boys, and they were talking, and one asked me, "How far do you walk for your water?" And my heart just kind of Plumpton. I said, not far, but very respectful.
One of the things that I learned was just how we have so much here, and they didn't have anything at all to give us, and somehow they made a way to give us something. Every day they had what they considered a feast, and the kids were so excited that they could eat all this special food that we would never serve somebody here, and it was such a treat for them. So it was really made you think about how blessed you are here, because they were just so happy to share with you these wonderful gifts that they had that you would never consider giving to somebody else.
The thing that I'll never forget was in Malawi in eyeglass, and I had this lady young lady I should say, came up to me, and she had about a 2-year-old in one hand and a baby in her other arm. And she started talking with me and asked me a few questions and had a little discussion with her. And she was turned around to leave. She turned around and wanted to hand her baby over to me and told me to take it because she had no more way of taking care of it.
Well, we're also in 2007, while we were in Uganda, we went to, I believe it was in Kampala, we went to the palace, and I don't remember what year it was, but Idi Amin had come into Uganda and taken over Uganda, and we visited the palace that Idi Amin had taken over, and we visited some of the cells where Idi Amin had put people to, I believe they were people high up in government, and what they did to those men and other people in that country was very horrific, and I'll never forget that, what he did to those people.
What I appreciate most about life in the U.S. is going to my kitchen and turning on the water, opening up my freezer and getting out some ice to put in my pop, making it nice and cold.
The ability to turn on a stove and cook your meal or bake something in an oven without having to start a fire, put a kettle on, and hope it gets done before it starts to rain on it.
I would say just being blessed with everything that we have in general, just all the little things that we wouldn't normally think to be thankful for.
The access to medical care that I have here in the U.S., that if I have a scratch in my eye, I can go to my eye doctor and he or she can help me out, or if any other problem I have, I can go directly and get help.
I am so thankful that we were able to form the Foundation for Hope in Africa. It was a burning desire in all of our hearts.
On our first trip in 2007, when we left the village of Nabasanki, we were heartbroken. They didn't have water, and there were little kids that were just begging for water, and we knew we had to do something.
And when we had a hard time coming up with a name for it, because we were thinking of water all the time, we were thinking of the love factor.
Robin Wild got a group of us together to see who was interested in forming the foundation. We could not imagine at that time what was done through the foundation.
Finally came up with Foundation for Hope in Africa.
I'm thankful for the Foundation for Hope in Africa because they're very organized. Almost a year in advance, we are planning things from airline tickets to trainings, like in the eyeglass clinic, for example.
We had volunteers from different areas that would come and do translating for us. They would also help us with our eye charts.
So even on the building projects, we don't replace anybody. We work alongside the locals and work with the local contractors.
While we were in Malawi, one of our host families decided he wanted to take us to see their resort area. So we drove in a van with 10 people for over an hour, got to the lake, saw it and everything, and then our driver said, well, I'm going to go and buy some fish yet to take home for my supper. And we all kind of said, well, where are you going to put it with 10 people in here, have stinky fish in with us? So what he did, he said, don't worry, and he tied them to his windshield wipers, and that's how they flopped in 80-some degree weather all the way home.
My favorite part of the safari was elephant back safari on the Zambezi, and they gave a friend of mine the smallest elephant. He was the biggest guy, And when he was trying to go up the hill across the Zambezi, that poor little elephant was barely going to try to make it up the hill. Actually went down on 2 knees to crawl up the top of it.
Yeah, on one of my first trips to Africa, we were going on a safari, and the executive directors all got there first, and we had a little conversation, and we basically convinced everybody in the other 2 vehicles that we got there early and that we had to go talk to the guard to let the animals out of their cages so we could go on safari. And one of our executive directors goes up to the guard, and the guard comes back to everybody and goes, "Okay, you guys are early, but I let the animals out of their cages." And everybody's just like, "What? Really?"
What I thought was the coolest was the elephants. There is nothing more majestic than an elephant.
I enjoyed the giraffes so much in Tanzania's safari. They were just so graceful and just so beautiful to watch.
We went to a safari in Tanzania, and we were just riding along in the safari vehicle, and all of a sudden we were just surrounded by hundreds of baboons in trees walking around the ground, and that was just something that I'd definitely never seen before.
I remember riding along in Queen Elizabeth on safari, and a leopard was walking right alongside the van, like staying right in the shadow right next to where I was looking out. And it was a little bit scary to see that wild animal right there within arm's reach.
I will never forget when we were in Arusha and we braked for lunch during the safari. All of a sudden I heard this screeching from the bushes next to me, and I kind of was looking around like, I have no idea what that sound is. All of a sudden a monkey jumped out at me, ran at me, and I hurry up and backed up. He took my crackers and jumped into the tree and just was the happiest monkey ever.
I was at the same place where Miranda just was, and they also grabbed my lunch.
I would like to tell people that are thinking of going to Africa with the Foundation for Hope to not give it a second thought. They are so well organized. My husband and I were a little bit apprehensive because of our age, but we had no problem keeping up with everybody else, and we just enjoyed ourselves. So give it a chance. Go.
A trip with the Foundation for Hope in Africa will change your life. Oftentimes, most of us have gone to Africa expecting to change other people's lives, but I think most of us would account that it changes us personally. It changed my life personally to the amount that I traveled a couple times to Africa, and such a burden for the children in Africa that we actually led my wife and I to adopt a little boy from Burundi. And he's been with us here for the last 2 years, and it's just been a great blessing to our family. But these trips are well organized and are great trips and will make a great impact on you individually. And if you want to grow as an individual and touch other people, this is the trip to go on.